Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins Trilogy, also known as Bernard Sidious. And this video is going to be for all three of the platforms that I primarily use, BitChute, Substack, and yes, YouTube. My friend Cortex and I have been planning on doing a deep dive into the first couple of episodes of the Amazon Studios and Bethesda produced Fallout television series. I say the first couple of episodes because I've only just recently finished watching episode 2. It's taken me roughly a week to watch each episode because I'm not just going through and watching it and then moving along to the next one. I am going through and doing a systematic, analytical, literary analysis viewing of this show. Because when we agreed that we were going to do a breakdown of this program, we initially had agreed to do it because we've talked Fallout before. We're both big fans of the games. Cortex's familiarity with the lore and the history of the games is much deeper than my own. I have played the very first Fallout, Fallout Tactics, Fallout Brotherhood of Steel for the original Xbox game console, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and about half of Fallout 4. I have not finished Fallout 4, and I've never played Fallout 76, nor did I ever play the mobile game, the Vault Dweller Manager mobile game. But there's a great deal of the world building and the details that, while they are salient, they tend to escape me. Simply because I have not spent a great deal of time diving excessively into the minutiae of the Fallout universe. I have, however, thoroughly enjoyed the games as I have played them. There was a long time between the last time I played a Fallout game and when Fallout 3 came out. Prior to 3's release, the most recent playthrough I had was the Brotherhood of Steel game for the Xbox, and that was shortly after that game came out, years and years ago. And it was just a much different experience. It was more of an action RPG kind of dungeon crawler game, as opposed to the strategic turn-based kind of Western RPG that Fallout 1 and 2 had been. Tactics was a whole other thing altogether because it was instead of controlling a singular character, you were controlling a squad of recently commissioned Brotherhood of Steel officers. That's a whole other basket of issues, however. But I am looking forward to going through and doing the play-by-play with Cortex on these episodes because I've been, as I said, taking meticulous notes on the show. When I do an analytical viewing or reading of anything, I can't just simply read it or watch it and enjoy it and go through and give just a quick synopsis of my takes of it. I tend to be very anal retentive and I take a lot of notes. I pause the show or the movie and I make observations as I'm going. So some of the points that I've got written down here are some of them are speculation about where the show might be going or the plot or characters might be heading. And then as I watch further into the episode, I get clarification and go, okay. So I was incorrect in my earlier assumption. Now that I have a new information, I can try to look back and say, well, here's what I think was being aimed at or attempted with X, Y, and Z. Or X, Y, and Z, depending on who you are. But my breakdown of this show thus far, if I were to do a brief kind of where I'm scaling things or scoring things. When it comes to any and all of my book reviews, or short story reviews, I always use the classical 10-point scaling metric. Out whatever out of 10, and I tend to go by quarters of a point. So, like The Howling, the original Howling novel, I pegged at a 7.5 out of 10, or maybe a 7.25. But the second novel I actually enjoyed a little bit better than the first novel, and I scored it just a touch higher at a 7.75, or would have, except for a couple of really bad inconsistencies of plot. There were narrative conceits that kind of got wiped out. So I had to take points off and ended up giving it like a 6.5 out of 10. Still a serviceable book, but anyway, that's how I'm looking to kind of score this show so far, episode by episode. The first episode, I'm going to say right now, I would definitely mark it or score it an 8.5 for my liking based on narrative and literary analysis. And episode 2 sees us taking a step down to an 8.0. And my fear, my trepidation as I'm working through this series is that with each subsequent episode, I suspect I'm going to feel myself falling less and less in favor of this program. It's not to say it's a badly made show, and I'm not going to get into the specifics just now, just yet. I'd prefer to do a lot of the specifics in the deep dive with my friend Cortex. But if we can't get together some point in the next week, I am going to ultimately just end up doing kind of an analytical breakdown and go through all of my notes for the first couple of episodes in order to render a verdict on them and to relay or convey to you folks my thoughts on the program thus far. But I suspect, like I said, it's not going to get better. The initial episode was very well done, but I also find myself taking more and more exception as a storyteller with how the show is being presented as we go along. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, I'll be, when I talk with Cortex, we'll be going through and going note by note, bit by bit. Much like I did with my Barbie film presentation. I was very late to the party on Barbie. I had to wait for it to release on streaming. In this instance, with the Fallout show, it all released in a single batch, but I am taking rather a lengthy amount of time to go through and do my reading, or do my watching, and give my impressions, because I want to ensure that I have my thoughts and my critiques properly assembled before just blurting out what I think and explaining why I think it. I like to be thorough. Handwritten notes are a thing for me, especially when I'm going through doing reviews. I think of this is a notebook just for reviews of different books and stories that I've been reading, starting with Isaac Asimov's A Whiff of Death, which was, good novel. Alan Wake, Jeff Vandermeer's The Southern Reach trilogy. I'd like to be thorough, because I don't feel it doesn't behoove me to do anything but be thorough if I'm going to offer a genuine, thoughtful critique of the material that I am touching base with and reviewing. That's why I don't do a great deal of reviews, because I want to be thorough and thoughtful. The Man Who Used the Universe by Alan Dean Foster. Got all my notes here, going through extensively. Peter Straub's Ghost Story, most beautiful horror story. Just, quite frankly, one of the best there is out there. But I've already done those reviews in video form. You can look back through my BitChute playlist and find those. I may re-upload them onto YouTube, and I may present some of them to the Substack community that I am in, kind of as a sort of a on the fringes member of the fiction community on Substack. I'm not a big name, I'm not a huge draw, but those are the folks I interact with the most and get the greatest enjoyment out of touching base with and chit-chatting with. Handwritten, another quick thing on that. I've been going through with another dedicated notebook. Got this one from Dollar Tree. And I'm finding myself rather enjoying handwriting my first draft of things again. I'm currently in the process of doing a handwritten first draft for my next novel, which will be a fantasy novel, a standalone project. It is not a touch upon Temeraria or Temerarian Tales from the 4th or 5th Age. It's not to do with the Ether Realm books that I did for Kathy Potts and that set of creatures. That series is pretty much done. I pretty much ended that with This Is M Division. But I'm going through and doing a longer short story, handwritten first draft now in here, and got myself probably, I want to say I'm about 3/4 of the way through this longer short story. Should be able to wrap up the first draft within the confines of this 80-page journal style notebook. It's not huge. I'm not using teeny tiny lettering, so the actual word count will probably keep it well within the boundaries of a short story. But word count is not the only important thing when it comes to telling your story as a narrator or as a storyteller. Harlan Ellison was an absolute genius when he put forth that you don't have to be long-winded to tell a great tale. Sometimes it's even best if you can convey what you need to convey to your audience, pull them in, wrap them up, supercharge their mind and emotions with the story and the characters, and get the hell out of there. Don't waste your reader's time. This is why allusions, metaphor, simile are vital. Why metaphor, why simile, why illustration and comparison is a short story or novella writer's greatest gift and best friend, because you can convey a great deal of detail or conceit and concept to your audience without wasting a whole lot of time and space. Get in, get out, but entertain your audience and engage them. Ellison was a master of it. But anyway, I've rambled and kind of gone all over the place. Enough for today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in once again. Thank you for listening. I ask, as always, that you take care of yourselves, and always remember, keep reading.